After spending 8 years on death row, Lisa Ann Coleman was executed by lethal injection in Texas. But to understand how she ended up on death row, we have to go back to July 2004 and to a 9-year-old boy named Devonte Marcel Williams. Due to the nature of this case, viewer discretion is advised. All descriptions are factual and handled with care. To watch more true crime stories like this, subscribe to this channel, like, share, and leave a comment. On July 26, 2004, paramedics were called to a small apartment in Arlington. Inside, they found Devonte dead. He weighed just 35 pounds, severely underweight for his age. And within hours, 2 women were arrested, his mother, Marcelo Williams, and her partner, Lisa Ann Coleman. But the signs had been there for years. Marcella had given birth to Devonte at just 14. He was born premature and struggled from the start, developmental delays, special needs, and fragile health. And by the time he was 2 months old, Child Protective Services had already opened a file. One early report said Marcelo wasn't watching him properly. CPS monitored the home for 6 months, but didn't remove him. That changed in 1999, when Devonte and his baby sister were taken into foster care after new, much more serious reports surfaced. His hair was falling out. He had bruises along his spine, swelling on his lips, and signs of trauma to his genitals. CPS found clear evidence of abuse, and they blamed Lisa. In the year that followed, the agency kept both kids in care, but Marcella wasn't one to give up easily. She fought to get her children back. And after a year, she did, but only after promising to break up with Lisa and keep her away from her children. She agreed. For a while, it seemed like things were going better. The chaos settled. Then, in late 2000, Marcella gave birth to a 3rd child, another daughter. But by 2002, Lisa had quietly moved back in. Devonte had just started school. That's when more red flags surfaced and multiple reports were filed alleging both physical and medical neglect. So CPS opened another case. But when caseworkers showed up at the apartment to talk to the children, they denied everything. They said everything was fine at the house. There was no abuse and there were no problems. But behind closed doors, Marcella and Lisa were running a different playbook. That year, Marcella and Lisa began pulling away, isolating. Devonte stopped attending school. Doctor visits stopped. When the school called, they said they had moved. CPS made 9 separate attempts to contact the family between November and December. No one answered. Devonte had vanished. And no one would ever see him alive again. Then came the afternoon of July 26, 2004. Marcella called 911. Her voice trembled. She told the dispatcher her son had stopped breathing inside their Arlington apartment. The dispatcher immediately tried to walk her through CPR, but the line suddenly got disconnected. Paramedics rushed over, and when they arrived, Lisa answered the door and told them that Devonte had only stopped breathing a few minutes earlier. She said that he had just eaten and started throwing up, so they took him to the bathroom to clean him up. But that lie unraveled quickly. They found Devonte lying lifeless on the bathroom floor. He was wearing a disposable diaper, but his small frame was barely holding it up. He didn't look 9 years old. He didn't even look 5. His body was so thin, so fragile, that it resembled that of a toddler. There were dirty peeling bandages on his arms, and around his mouth and nose, a thin film of yellow vomit or bile had dried into his skin. Lisa and Marcella said that they had tried to feed him Pediasure, a nutritional supplement drink for children designed to support their growth and development. But if they did, it was already too late. His body couldn't process it anymore, and his organs had already started shutting down. And the truth, it wasn't in their story. It was written all over his body. He didn't just stop breathing when his mother made the 911 call. Rigor mortis had already set in. He had been dead for hours. His small body told the truth. He had over 250 scars, some fresh, some old. Infected wounds around his wrists and ankles showed he had been tied up with plastic cords. A fresh tear on his lip. Another injury where his ear had once been connected. In a corner of the bathroom, investigators found a golf club with blood on it. The question wasn't whether Devonte suffered. It was who did this and why. It didn't take long for suspicion to fall on Lisa, who was just 28 years old at the time of the crime. And when detectives peeled back the layers of her past, they found a long chain of trauma and chaos stretching back decades. Lisa never got a clean start. She was a product of rape. Her mother was assaulted by her stepfather, and Lisa was born from that violence. From day one, she was unwanted. Her existence was a wound no one in the family wanted to look at. And that wound bled into everything that followed. She grew up in a home where violence was common. Lisa endured beatings from an uncle with extension cords, the same kind later used on Devonte. Child Protective Services stepped in, but help never came. Her mother called her pig so often that the insult stuck like a scar. She was stabbed by a cousin, introduced to alcohol and drugs before puberty, and dropped out after 10th grade. By 15, she was already a mother. Her adult life was shaped by trauma, arrests, burglaries, and drug charges, and she was sent to prison twice. And by the time she met Marcelo Williams, Lisa had already been shaped by a lifetime of rage, pain, and survival instincts that left no room for empathy. And eventually, it all led to one brutal conclusion: Devonte's death. When police brought Lisa in for questioning, she didn't sugarcoat anything. She said she split her nights between Marcelo's apartment and her mom's house, where her child lived. She admitted to disciplining Devonte with a belt, claimed she stopped, not out of guilt, but because the bruises were too hard to hide. And then came the worst part. She said both she and Marcelo had restrained Devonte with cords on multiple occasions, including the night he died. According to Lisa, Marcelo shook her awake that night, screaming that something was wrong. Lisa ran into the other room and saw her trying to perform CPR. In a panic, they dragged Devonte into the bathroom and lowered his limp body into a tub of warm water, hoping to shock him back to life. But it didn't work. It was already too late. Officers showed no mercy, and both women were arrested and charged with injury to a child. Devonte's two younger sisters, just 3 and 6 years old, were taken into foster care, this time for good. But unlike their older brother, they appeared to be healthy. The autopsy confirmed what the officers already feared. Devonte had died from severe malnutrition. Pneumonia was listed as a secondary cause. His tiny body just couldn't fight anymore. Before the trial, prosecutors offered both women a deal: plead guilty and serve life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. Marcelo took it, but Lisa didn't. That decision sealed both of their fates. Marcelo will be eligible for parole in 2044. Lisa would never get that chance. To pursue the death penalty, the state needed to prove that a second felony, like kidnapping, took place during the murder. They argued that the cord restraints, the locked pantry, and the years of isolation constituted captivity. There was food in the home. They just didn't give it to him. The jury saw photos of his body, the cords, and the golf club. Lisa's attorney argued she didn't live there, and that Devonte had always been small, even as a baby. He said Lisa was innocent of capital murder. But the jury didn't believe it. After just 1 hour, they returned a verdict: guilty of capital murder. Lisa and Coleman was sentenced to death. For the next 8 years, her legal team filed appeals, claiming the kidnapping statute didn't apply. But the courts rejected each one. The state set a date. On September 17, 2014, Lisa spent the morning talking to visitors. She cried at times, laughed at others. That evening, she ate what the other inmates were having: fried pork chop, macaroni and cheese, carrots, green beans, navy beans, bread, and pineapple orange cake. She had tea, punch, or water to drink. At 6 p.m., Lisa was led to the gurney. When asked for final words, she looked toward the witnesses. She spoke calmly to a few friends. Then to the women on death row: keep your heads up. She turned to her family. I just want to tell my family I love them. My son, I love him. God is good. I'm done. She smiled. She made eye contact with an aunt, blew a kiss. Then repeated, God is good. Love you all. A soft gasp escaped her lips as her eyes closed. At 6:24 p.m., she was pronounced dead. She was 38 years old. Years later, Marcelo's own family spoke out. Her aunt, Tracy Williams, said life in prison wasn't enough. She believed Marcelo should have received the death penalty too, because in the end, she was the one person who could have protected Devonte. But she didn't. A mother's love is meant to protect, not destroy. Devonte didn't just suffer from abuse, he suffered from the one person who was supposed to shield him from it.